Story 1. The Hotel Stalker. The wind howled through the desolate streets of the small coastal town, carrying with it the faint scent of salt and decay. It was late autumn, and the town was still reeling from a devastating hurricane that had torn through a few months prior, leaving homes shattered and lives upended. Among the few structures still standing proud was the Seaside Haven, a modest bed-and-breakfast hotel where I, Emily Carter, worked the graveyard shift. The hotel, with its peeling paint and creaky floors, was a relic of better days, its neon sign flickering weakly against the night sky. My shift ran from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., a lonely stretch of hours where the world seemed to hold its breath. That night, the hotel was quieter than usual. Only 9 rooms were occupied, a far cry from the bustling crowds that had filled the place in the immediate aftermath of the storm. I spent most of my time in the employee break room, a cramped space with a humming coffee machine, a wobbly table, and a pair of threadbare sofas that smelled faintly of mildew. The front desk bell was my only connection to the outside world, its sharp ring a rare interruption in the oppressive silence. At around 11 p.m., the bell remained silent, but a deep, gravelly voice shattered the stillness. "Hello? Hello?" it called from the lobby, each word dripping with an unsettling urgency. My heart skipped a beat as I pushed open the door to the front desk, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. There, on the other side of the glass barrier, stood a man. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a face shrouded in shadow beneath a worn baseball cap. His eyes glinted in the dim light, sharp and predatory. "I need towels," he said, his voice low and clipped. I nodded, trying to ignore the prickling unease crawling up my spine. I grabbed a stack of fresh towels from the shelf and slid them under the glass. His hand shot out, snatching them with a force that made me flinch. For a moment, our eyes locked, and I saw something in his gaze, something cold, almost feral. Then, with a curt nod, he turned and disappeared down the hallway toward the guest rooms. I retreated to the rolling chair behind the counter, my eyes fixed on the grainy security monitor. The man's figure moved down the corridor, his gait uneven, almost erratic. I watched, transfixed, as he paused, glanced around as if sensing unseen eyes, and then began rubbing the towels across his face with a frantic intensity. "What in the world?" I muttered, my voice barely audible over the hum of the fluorescent lights. He stepped into the elevator, and the screen went black. 10 minutes later, the same voice echoed through the lobby again. "Hello!" it boomed, louder this time, laced with irritation. I steeled myself and returned to the counter. It was him again, standing closer to the glass now, his breath fogging the barrier. "My keycard's broken," he barked, his tone accusing. "What's your room number?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite the growing knot in my stomach. 2C, he snapped, his eyes narrowing. I froze. Our hotel didn't use letters in room numbers, only digits. This man wasn't a guest. "Sir," I said, my voice trembling slightly, "our rooms don't have letters. Are you sure you're staying here?" His reaction was instantaneous and terrifying. He threw the towels to the floor, his lips curling into a crooked smile that didn't reach his eyes. Slowly, deliberately, he leaned forward, pressing his face against the glass until his features distorted grotesquely. "I'm going to kill you," he whispered, the words slithering through the air like a venomous snake. He repeated it, louder each time, until it was a guttural scream that reverberated through the empty lobby. "I'm going to kill you!" Panic surged through me. "I'm calling the police!" I shouted, fumbling for the phone. I dialed 911, my hands shaking as I held the receiver to my ear. He watched me, his smile never wavering, mocking my fear with a chilling calm. "Calling the police, huh?" he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. As the dispatcher's voice crackled through the line, he laughed, a low, guttural sound that sent shivers down my spine, and sauntered toward the exit, disappearing into the night. The rest of my shift passed in a haze of dread. I stayed in the lobby, too rattled to return to the break room, my eyes darting to the monitors every few seconds. A single guest checked in around 2 a.m., a weary traveler who barely glanced at me. When my relief arrived, I clocked out and stepped into the frigid night air, the cold biting at my exposed skin. I regretted not bringing a coat, but the thought of lingering in the parking lot was unbearable. As I crossed the lot, my hands stuffed into the pockets of my thin jacket, a voice cut through the silence. It came from the line of bushes lining the hotel's first-floor windows, low and indistinct, but unmistakably human. My heart pounded as I quickened my pace, my breath clouding in the chilly air. I reached the main road, the streetlights casting long, eerie shadows across the pavement. The town was dead at this hour, the only sound the rhythmic slap of my shoes against the asphalt. Then I heard it, another set of footsteps, rapid and deliberate, like someone running on tiptoes. I spun around, my pulse racing, but the street was empty save for a parked car a few yards away. A soft laugh echoed from behind it, followed by those same chilling words. "I'm going to kill you." It was him. I knew it without seeing his face. Adrenaline surged through me. I scanned the street, my eyes landing on a house with an upstairs light glowing faintly. Someone was awake. I could make it. I glanced back at the car and saw him, his eyes peering over the hood, his twisted smile gleaming in the moonlight. He began to move, inching around the vehicle, his movements slow and deliberate, like a predator savoring the hunt. I bolted, screaming, "Help me!" as I sprinted toward the house. My lungs burned, my legs pumping furiously as I reached the front door and slammed my fist against the bell, ringing it frantically. Footsteps thundered behind me, and before I could react, his hands were around my throat, squeezing with a terrifying strength. "Die!" he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. My vision blurred, my life flashing before my eyes in disjointed fragments. Childhood summers, my mother's laugh, the dreams I'd never fulfill. Then a miracle. The door swung open, and a burly man in a flannel shirt bellowed, "Hey!" The grip on my neck loosened, and I collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. The man from the house helped me inside, his wife hovering anxiously as he called the police. I recounted the ordeal through choked sobs, the terror still clawing at my chest. The police collected the hotel's CCTV footage and conducted a lineup. But when I faced the suspects, my mind betrayed me. I stared at their faces, searching for that chilling smile, but fear clouded my judgment. "It's not any of them," I said, my voice hollow. To this day, I wonder if I let a monster slip through my fingers, free to haunt another night. Story 2. The Obsessed Customer. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the cavernous pro department of Harper's Home Improvement, casting a sterile glow over the rows of lumber, tools, and hardware. It was 9 p.m., and the store was winding down, the usual bustle of contractors and DIY enthusiasts replaced by an eerie quiet. I, Jake Sullivan, worked the closing shift alongside my best friend, Nicole Bennett, a fellow cashier whose warm smile and quick wit made the long hours bearable. Nicole was a striking woman with auburn hair and a quiet confidence that drew attention wherever she went. Unfortunately, that attention often came in the form of unwanted advances from male customers, mostly contractors who mistook her kindness for interest. She handled them with grace, politely declining their dinner invitations, but I could see the toll it took. Nicole was gay, a fact she kept private, not out of shame, but because she believed her personal life was nobody's business. I respected her choice, though I often wished she'd shut down the persistent suitors with a blunt truth. That night, as I returned from my lunch break, Nicole's usual brightness was dimmed. "You okay?" I asked, leaning against the counter. She sighed, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Some guy was in here while you were gone, kept flirting, wouldn't take no for an answer. I told him I'm with someone, and he finally left, but he creeped me out." I shrugged, trying to lighten the mood. "Just another lovesick contractor. You're breaking hearts left and right." She managed a weak smile, but her eyes remained uneasy. We went back to our routine, scanning items and chatting to pass the time. A few hours later, as Nicole was helping a customer in the lumber aisle, the automatic doors slid open and a man stepped inside. He was tall, with a chiseled jaw and a confident stride, the kind of guy who probably turned heads. But there was something off about him, a restlessness in his movements, a glint in his eyes that set my nerves on edge. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "I'm here for Nicole," he said, his voice smooth but insistent. "We talked earlier. She said yes to dinner, so I'm here to pick her up." My stomach twisted. Nicole hadn't mentioned any dinner plans, and I knew she'd never agree to something like that. "She's gone for the day," I lied, a reflex to protect her. "Maybe try another time." His smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "I want to see Nicole. I'm asking her out again." I crossed my arms, my patience thinning. "Look, man, she's not interested. You need to leave." His eyes narrowed, and for a moment I thought he might argue. Then, without a word, he turned and walked out, his footsteps echoing in the empty store. When Nicole returned, I filled her in, describing the guy in detail. Her face paled. "That's him," she whispered. "The one from earlier." We laughed off the fiancé excuse I'd blurted out in the moment, but the encounter left a lingering unease. Weeks passed, and the incident faded into the background of our busy shifts. Then one night, as we were closing up, a loud bang jolted us from our routine. We were gathering trash near the registers when the sound came again. A heavy thud against the glass doors. Nicole gasped, and I turned to see him. The same man, his face pressed against the glass, his eyes wild with a manic intensity. "We're closed!" I shouted, my voice steady despite the fear creeping up my spine. "Let me in!" he yelled, pounding the door with his fist. "I need to see her!" Nicole stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm not interested. Leave me alone." He laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the empty store. "I'm not here for you, sweetheart. I'm here for him." He pointed at me, his grin widening. "If I take out her fiancé, she's mine." The words hit like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just obsession. It was delusion, a twisted fantasy that had spiraled into violence. "Nicole, get to the manager's office and call the police," I said. My eyes locked on the man. She hesitated, then nodded and ran. I stood my ground, my heart pounding as he rammed the doors, the glass rattling with each impact. The store's policy against self-defense weapons left me defenseless, and I cursed the rule as I braced for the worst. Just as I thought the doors might give way, Nicole reappeared, clutching a 2x4 like a baseball bat. "Cops are coming!" she shouted, her voice fierce. The man froze, his eyes darting between us. With a final glare, he bolted into the darkness. The police arrived minutes later, and the closing manager led them to the security footage. The man was arrested the next day, his face plastered across the local news. Nicole and I quit soon after, unable to shake the fear that lingered in the store's empty aisles. We're still friends, now navigating college together, but that night changed us. It was a stark reminder of how quickly a stranger's obsession can turn deadly, and how fiercely we'll fight to protect each other. Story 3, The Motel Menace. In the summer of 2016, I, Sarah Mitchell, was desperate for a fresh start. After a string of personal setbacks, I landed a job at the Starlight Motel, a rundown establishment on the outskirts of a sleepy Midwestern town. The pay was meager, but it was an office job, a step up from the dead-end gigs I'd been scraping by on. My friend Michael, a seasoned night shift worker, had vouched for me, and after a whirlwind training period with the owner, I was thrown into the deep end, the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift, alone. The motel was a relic of the 1970s, its faded sign buzzing faintly against the night sky. The office was surrounded by large glass windows and a single glass door, offering no night window for safety, a design flaw that made my skin crawl. A monitor displayed grainy feeds from security cameras scattered around the property, their images flickering like ghosts. My first night alone was quiet. The only sounds the hum of the air conditioner and the occasional creak of the building settling. Around 1 a.m., as I sifted through check-in paperwork, the glass door swung open and a man stepped inside. He was average in every way. Medium height, nondescript clothes, a face you'd forget in a crowd. "Got any rooms?" he asked, his voice flat. I hesitated. The owner had warned me to turn away sketchy guests, but this guy seemed harmless. "Yes, of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Just for one?" He nodded and I began entering his information into the computer. That's when things took a turn. He started swatting at the air, his hands flailing as if fending off invisible insects. Soft spitting noises escaped his lips, and his eyes darted wildly around the room. My stomach churned, but I kept my focus on the screen, willing the reservation to process faster. I handed him his key and he left without a word. I exhaled, my nerves fraying. I was still new, still timid, grappling with personal struggles that left me ill-equipped for confrontation. I hoped that was the end of it. 20 minutes later, a loud bang jolted me from my chair. The man was back, slamming his hand against the glass door with enough force to rattle the frame. I froze, my heart pounding, as he glared at me through the glass. He cracked the door open, just enough to lean his head inside. "I can't get into my room," he snarled. "Why won't you let me in?" "Maybe the key's faulty," I stammered, desperate to defuse the situation. "Let me get you another one." I handed him a new key, my hands trembling. His eyes bored into mine, cold and unreadable, and for a moment I felt like prey. He took the key and left, but the encounter left me shaken. I tried texting Michael for advice, but it was the middle of the night, and he didn't respond. As I stared at the security monitor, I saw the man descending the stairs, his movements slow and deliberate. Panic surged through me. I bolted to the back office, locking the door and clutching my pocket knife, a small but comforting weight in my hand. From the other side of the door, his voice echoed through the office. "Hello? Why won't you let me in? Do you not like me?" I was paralyzed, my mind screaming at me to call the police, but fear made me foolish. "I'm on the phone," I called out, my voice quivering. "I'll be right there." I dialed Michael again, praying for an answer, but the call went to voicemail. Steeling myself, I stepped out of the office, expecting to face him, but the lobby was empty. Then I heard it, muttering from the bathroom, low and angry. "Kill her," he growled, the words repeating like a mantra. "Kill her." My blood ran cold. He emerged and I forced myself to speak. "Your key was broken," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. Let me escort you to your room." It was a reckless decision, driven by a desperate need to resolve the situation without escalating it. He agreed and I led the way, my knife hidden in the sleeve of my sweater. My heart pounded as we climbed the staircase, his presence looming behind me like a shadow. I kept glancing back, terrified he'd make a move. At one point, he stopped at a random door, fumbling with his key. "That's the wrong room," I said, my voice tight. "Yours is down here." His eyes flicked to mine, and for a moment, I thought he knew I was onto him. But he followed me to his room, and I let him in, my hands shaking as I unlocked the door. The moment he was inside, I sprinted back to the office, locking myself in. A chilling realization hit me. The room he'd tried to enter belonged to a lone female guest. He hadn't been confused. He'd been hunting. The next guest to check in was a police officer from a neighboring town. I confided in him, my voice trembling as I recounted the night's events. He promised to keep watch, and the next night, when the man returned, I locked the doors and told him we were booked. He left without a fight, but the encounter haunted me. When the owner returned from vacation, I told him everything. To my dismay, he brushed it off, chalking it up to night shift weirdos. I stayed at the motel for another year, enduring more strange encounters, but none matched the terror of that first night. It was a lesson in trusting my instincts, and a reminder that danger often wears an ordinary face.